Hello, Julie. Julie, Lord, Alie. Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. Pass out the mics. Welcome, welcome. And Matt is back. Hey, Matt. Hi, Sarah, Dave, Joku. I'm sorry, I probably said it wrong. Ron, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm passing out some mics here. Welcome back. We missed a week last week, and so much is happening. Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. Trying to see how's everybody doing this week.
Hey, Heather. I'm scrambling around for the first few minutes of this, but I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Marco, how
Hey,
are you?
hey Heather, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Salma, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad it's Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday. Hey, Marco, did you want to say something? Or you want to just get on the discussion to begin with?
Hey, sorry, I was just
Okay.
sorting out my headphones. How you doing, guys? All right? I'm just very excited to be here, as always.
Oh,
Content of listening to all you creative people, and just always engaging. And I'm actually just doing some stuff for a Hive 3 tournament. I'm just messing about with a few things, but good to be here.
oh yeah. Thank you. So you're doing the next challenge?
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah. The last one was good. Alan and Dave.
Yeah,
And
I like those videos.
who was third place? I didn't see that just ended for the Wicked.
They're all very unique, though, aren't they?
Yes, it was. It's just amazing. I did a live stream last night for Hive 3, and that was good. We went over, some workflow process issues, and thank you anybody that was there that's here now. I appreciate it. And that was we'll be doing that once a week. I think the next one is on Tuesday. For not with me, it'll be with, I'm not sure exactly who, but Hive 3 will be doing once a week live streams within their Discord.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And your baby's okay?
Yeah, he's eating all the time, like me. He's putting on good weight, and he loves his little baths. He's like 3 weeks old yesterday, so he's super cute though.
Congratulations!
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and keep creating.
Thank you very much.
I guess we'll get the show on the road. Thank you so much. And everybody that's coming in, welcome. Thank you for coming back and hanging in there. We missed a week or so here and there, especially last week, but this is Friday. And we have Matt Wolfe back with us today. We have Matt, we have Taylor, we have Salma, we have Alie. Linus, I'm not sure. He might be joining us. And Rob Lennon is coming by the second hour. So welcome to everybody. We got lots to talk about. But Matt, if you're able to, I'd love to hear what you've been up to, because you got to do a lot with the conferences that you were at, like the video, I'm not sure what it was called, but you just got to do a lot on top of being with the Adobe Max and all types of things. So I'm sure you have plenty to tell. I just love to hear some of what you've been up to.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, cool. You never know when you're using the desktop
know.
app. You never know. So, no, it's great to be back. I haven't been on one of these, and I don't know. It's probably been 5 weeks now or something like that. So excited to jump on. I've had way too much coffee today, so I might be a little bit hyper and excited. But I think that will actually make for a better experience. But but yeah, over the last several weeks, I've gone to a few different conferences. I was out in New York for the Microsoft event where they announced things like DALL-E 3 was going to be directly inside of Bing Chat. They showed off a lot of their new what was it, the Surface Pro and all the AI that they were building into that. So uh, Microsoft actually flew me out to New York to be at that event, so that was fun. I got to come home for like 3 days and then immediately left to go to Vid Summit in Dallas, which was a conference for YouTubers, really. It was mostly uh, not AI focused, but the interesting thing about Vid Summit was, although it was all about YouTube and YouTubers, almost every single presentation that I sat in on actually mentioned AI at least once. Like everybody was talking about AI. Even even the YouTubers that have nothing to do with AI mentioned some way that they're using AI in their workflow or to create thumbnails or to do their editing. So it was really, really interesting to see that at a YouTube conference, the talk of the conference was all about AI. Other than that, I actually went on a camping trip last weekend. So nothing to do with conferences or anything like that. Just kind of got out into the world, touched grass, just camped with the family and some friends. And yeah, that's what I've been up to lately, and somehow have actually managed to continue to keep my finger on what's going on with all the AI news and release my weekly, Friday or Saturday news recap videos on YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, looking back at the last 5 weeks or so, I have no clue how I've still managed to get content out while traveling and doing all this stuff, but somehow I've made it work, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
It's probably from the all the processes you have in place, or the workflows and things like that you've been using with AI, right? Because you had a lot of different things that you implemented that kind of help you streamline that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've got a couple really good team members now that help me as well. I've got John, who's like my right hand man now, who helps me with titles and thumbnails, and actually knows how to edit. So he actually helps me with some of my edits. I do have another editor as well. And then I've also got another team of people that help me with sponsorships and sort of manage the business side of everything. So, um, you know, AI plus having a couple really, really awesome team members makes a big difference.
Well, and Taylor, I know you were on the podcast, and it would be interesting. Like, if I don't think everybody here even knows necessarily like how meteoric your personal account brand and how all this has changed so quickly. I mean, it seems quickly, but it was quickly since about January. So, right. And how like having to scale up to that level, it's just unbelievable how much you've had to do in how much you've grown, but you've been able to still manage to keep all this stuff going and even growing that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a hard time listening back to when I'm on podcasts and stuff, so I actually haven't re-listened to the podcast that we did. I don't know, there's something weird about my brain where I don't like to listen back to interviews that I've done. Um, where I have no problem rewatching my YouTube videos that I make because I'm editing them and watching them 17 times before they go live, but I never go back and listen to podcasts. So quite honestly, I forgot what we talked about. Those kinds of things are always like a blur to me. I kind of come into a podcast, and then when it's over, I completely forgot everything that we talked about 10 minutes after it was over. But yeah, I mean, my story is I actually started creating content in 2007, and I quit my job to go full-time content creator in 2009. My very first YouTube video that I ever uploaded on my Matt Wolfe channel was back in 2009. So it's been 14 years since I've started that YouTube channel. And for 13 of those years, I topped out at like 2,000 subscribers, and my videos were getting, 70, 80 views whenever I uploaded a new video. Nothing really to write home about. And then at the very end of 2022, around October of 2022, so it's almost been a year. It's been about a year now. So October of 2022 was when I started really, doubling down on AI related content. And within the first month of doing that, I gained like 100,000 subscribers. And then over the course of 2023, I just passed 450,000 subscribers yesterday, and 440,000 of those all came this year. So it's been it's been a long journey that all sort of came to a head this year and sort of exploded in a single year. But I've been trying to get it right for 14 years.
And that's what's helpful for, I think, people to hear about, because it's like, you weren't always that wasn't, you had it set up a different way, but you were showing up every day and you were putting in effort and you had your systems there. But then when this happened, what made you go to strictly to AI in October? So that was before ChatGPT?
Yeah, so the first video that I put out about AI was actually in June of 2021. It was all about, I was actually talking about GPT-3 back in 2021. And, I had a podcast all about digital marketing and how to do Facebook ads and SEO and things like that. So back in 2021, I was actually talking about how to use AI, tools like GPT-3 and Jasper, and it was called something else back then. It was actually called conversion.ai back when I first started talking about it. Then they rebranded as Jarvis, and then they rebranded as Jasper. But I was talking about that back in 2021 from a sales copywriting standpoint and an SEO standpoint, and how you can use AI in your marketing. And back then, nobody really was that excited about it. I was putting out that content, and it just kind of it didn't really get much attention. And then in 2022, I got obsessed with AI when I first came across Stable Diffusion and MidJourney and the early versions of DALL-E. When I started playing around with those, that's what sort of reignited my excitement around AI. So in October, the first video I made around AI was comparing a few different AI tools that mostly leveraged DALL-E at the time. And then a month later, I made I don't know, a couple weeks later, I made another video that really dove in on how to use Stable Diffusion. And then I made a video, a week after that was all about MidJourney. And because of these generative AI art tools, I was super excited about it. I think that excitement came across in my videos, but also there wasn't a lot of other YouTube channels talking about it, right? There was maybe 2 or 3 other existing channels that were talking about these tools at the time. So when tools like MidJourney started to pop onto people's radar, they would go on YouTube, they would search for it, and I was like one of 3 channels that had already sort of been talking about it. And then the channel really exploded when I made my first video about ChatGPT back in November, like maybe a week after ChatGPT came out. I started talking about what you can do with that, and that was the first video that I ever put out that ended up getting over 1 million views, was a video about ChatGPT. So just that sort of progression of things, the AI art videos, then ChatGPT, and the videos just kept on doing better and better and better. So I went, all right, this is kind of my thing now. I gotta just keep talking about AI. And so I just started going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole and looking for cooler and cooler tools that I can show off to people. And that's really the whole story there.
No, thank you so much, because like people ask me sometimes what got you started, and like, well, I think I was already kind of messing around with the AI art generators and using MidJourney and different other tools, because I was actually kind of terrified of MidJourney. But when ChatGPT came on the scene, I wrote a thread about that and how all the things you can do with ChatGPT, and it kind of converged at that point. So it's funny how a lot of us that are sitting up here today, it just worked out differently than what the typical growth plan on X and most platforms is. So, Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah,
Please.
no, I just wanted to chime in and say, Matt, I'm so happy that you're here. As you know, and I'm probably sure some of you guys here listening know, I did an interview with Matt a couple weeks back, and it's now live. I pinned it up at the top, but it's funny that you're saying you can't even remember it, and I'm over here thinking like, oh yeah, he said that. I'm like checking off my list. I could probably write your memoir or lead your fan club, Matt. We still need to come up with a name for that. But I just wanted to say how much I love these conversations and how looking at the different trajectories of creators is like so fascinating to me because, you know, Matt has his story, Heather has her story. Not gonna tease anything out yet, but Heather has her story, and it's interesting because there's no like perfect linear line that you follow all of these steps and it all happens. In Matt's case, he was doing this for 14 years, and you were doing like different types of content even before doing AI. Like you had a podcast, Matt, and that was something that I learned and had to go back on. You were making music, like you were doing all of these things for the last decade plus before it got to this moment of a huge tipping point. And Heather, your case is so different too, because it's like things just exploded so quickly for you and for many of us in this AI space. So I think these conversations are so important to have. I'm so appreciative of this community and the fact that we can all come together and have these chats. So that's all I wanted to add.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And there's many of us that are in the space. Like if you look back months and months ago, it was a whole different story for all of us. So I'm just happy to be here too, and I'm grateful that we have this space, even literally this space right now, and that I got to meet Matt or just come into his universe back in like January, I think, right? And that you've been coming in, that we have a place in Robert Scoble. Thank you so much for popping up in here around, I think that was around January or so too, right? You came in. That's when we just started really being able to have conversations every week that didn't get into, the crazy stuff. And we just talked about what was happening in the community. So, in different technology, it's so much now. I wanted to, I almost forgot now, what was I going to go into, because something to do with Matt. Hold on, somebody help me here while I'm thinking. I lost my train of thought. I think I might.
Can I just say,
oh, yeah,
I watched a video, Matt, that you published probably like a month or two ago recently about Insight Face Swapper or something like that. I don't know why I didn't see it sooner, but it's been like, I've been obsessed with it, using it in MidJourney. I installed it because I watched your video, went through the motions, and now I can easily swap faces right there in MidJourney. And I don't know if the quality has gotten better since you made your video about it, but like nearly every single one that I make is just incredible, and it's taken up way too much of my time over the last week.
Yeah, it's really cool. I just have to say though that people with beards, it doesn't do quite as well.
Glasses
so,
too.
Yeah, if you ever grow a beard, it probably won't work so well.
I wanted to wait. Hold on, no, because I was going to ask you. Did you hear of anything like at the conference, or with anything that is coming soon, like how they're implementing AI with like YouTube and that's YouTube Studio and different things that people are doing? Anything interesting?
Well, when I was at the YouTube conference, it wasn't really, necessarily people from YouTube sharing what's going on at YouTube. It was more YouTubers sharing their workflows and, sharing what's, their title and thumbnail strategies to get more views on the videos, and their tactics for editing to keep the retention longer. It was a lot of that kind of stuff. There has been a lot happening at YouTube. While I was in New York for the Microsoft event, YouTube actually had an event in New York at the exact same time, where they were actually announcing a whole bunch of new features that are rolling out into YouTube that leverage AI. Like they're doing, I don't remember the names of all of the features. They all have specific names, but I'm drawing a blank on what they're actually called. But there's a feature they're adding into Shorts where it will automatically sort of rotoscope you out and make it look like you have a green screen behind you, and then let you swap out the background on it. They're doing like a new AI insights feature where it uses AI to look at all of your past videos, but also videos that are performing well on YouTube overall, and suggest ideas for new YouTube videos for you. They're rolling out some new AI advertising stuff for people who advertise on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of really interesting AI features rolling out into YouTube. In fact, I think just yesterday they announced that they're working on a feature that's going to legally allow you to replicate voices of singers and make like almost like deep faked music videos with the singer's permission, and the various artists are actually going to get compensated if you use their voice. And so that was an announcement that they made, just, it was either yesterday or the day before. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff happening at YouTube, but none of that information actually came to me at Vid Summit.
Well, that's funny. That I just heard about that with the. I gave a thumbs up about the music being able to replicate the voices, and I didn't mean to imply that I thought that was good. I don't know what that's going to be, but I remember I just read about it like, oh wow, this is a lot going on. Well, yeah, it's always something. And Alie, well, you're here, and you were right. You just posted something about MidJourney, the upscaler, and not just MidJourney, but comparing upscalers, because that just dropped at what, like 10, almost 11 p.m. Eastern time the other night. I just turned around and saw it all of a sudden on my in my Discord. Like, wait, how did the buttons change? And then I rushed around to see what was going on. But there's just like, it seems like there's a mad rush for everybody to get features, and everybody's dropping everything at once. Do you want to tell us
Yes,
about that?
yes, and I do feel that there is pressure or maybe some disappointment at sometimes when I listen in on the office hours where, they wish that they could ship things faster. And I don't know if it's because of the other people are shipping faster or, whatever the external pressures or internal pressures may be, or us people demanding for more features, but they have now been saying that they will drop this upscaler a couple of weeks ago, then it was a week ago, and finally it dropped, yes, very late in the evening. And I was already speculating that, well, it might still be a couple of days, but here we go. And I actually think that was a right idea to do, because now they can get more feedback from us, the users, to see how it actually performs. So I just posted a fairly extensive comparison of different upscalers that are available right now. Certainly, this is not an all-inclusive list of all of them. There's just few of them. There are some free and some paid ones, and Gigapixel being one of the more popular and perhaps better in quality and the what you get to the sharpness, and it has a lot of other features as well, but it is one of the paid ones. So I just did a quick comparison to see one of the early feedback from the MidJourney upscaler is that it's a bit soft, and they have tried to make it a bit sharper. I still do see that it is a little bit soft, but again, depending on, so my analysis or observations or thoughts about this is that depending on where are you going to use the images that you generate, MidJourney may be completely sufficient and you can just upscale there 2x or 4x. 2x is the only one that I used in this particular comparison, just to see, and it seems to be the more favorited from the users so far. 4x starts to get a bit more not as sharp and focused, so even further away from the original. So it may be sufficient. There are other free ones. However, the one caveat with the free ones is that some of them only allow you to do maybe 10 images and then you have to pay. So then the question is, would you really want to use that if you're already getting very comparable result from using MidJourney? So my personal preference is if I can do everything in one tool or one place, it makes my life easier, because it's going to be a much more streamlined workflow all the way around. One of the things that I often use just for one-off images is Photoshop, since I already have the subscription, so it makes it super easy to just upscale there. And I really liked the result that I got on this one, and it was very comparable, again, even with the Gigapixel. And of course, then I can use many other tools and filters and everything else already straight in Photoshop. So it makes it super, super easy. But again, yes, it is paid.
So right now, they said that it's subtle. I kept trying to stare at it and figure out. I saw little teeny tiny details, but I couldn't really tell. And I went ahead, that the 4-time upscale, it makes your file size about 20 megabytes. I noticed it went from and that would be an issue for some people, depending on if you're using a third party scheduler for your post. Think, or wherever, you can't, a lot of times you can't upload a file, an image that's larger than 5 or 10 megabytes. So 20 megabytes is a lot, from like around 2, less than 2. I noticed that. But It's interesting. What do you guys think about that, Salma and Matt, Taylor, Linus? I'm trying to get you the mic. I can't get it to you, but what do you think? Are you happy, or what are you going to do with it?
I actually tried to use the upscaler. I was recording a news video that went live today, and I was talking about how MidJourney just released the upscaler, and I think at the time I was recording my video and trying to show off the upscaler, it was overwhelmed or something because I actually kept getting an error and the upscaling wasn't working for me. So I actually haven't seen the results of the upscale yet, but it's interesting. I saw Nick St. Pierre post something on Twitter the other day about how if you upscale it to 4x on MidJourney and then you pull the upscaled version inside of Topaz or Gigapixel, you can actually make the image the equivalent of a 3-story tall building. Right? Like if you look at it in inches, it comes out to the equivalent of a 3-story tall building. So you could make actually insanely large images without much loss of quality just by using MidJourney's upscaler and then Topaz's upscaler. So that's pretty interesting. I don't really know the exact use case for that unless you're literally making a billboard, but pretty interesting that you can do that.
Yeah, I made mine real big, and then I was trying to figure out how I could show that on a post, but then I realized that doesn't really make sense. What good is that going to do anybody? They're not going to be able to really see it. So I was trying to put it on a different, and it just kind of wasted time. I don't know what to do with that, but well,
For me,
I
there's been a couple of instances where it's been really helpful, especially for like background imagery on a website, especially if you're in like a desktop mode, because it stretches and it's a little bit easier on the eyes. But it still takes so long for me. I think is that the commonality for everyone, is that it just takes forever? Because I swear it was taking me like 5+ minutes to upscale one image.
Yes, it is slow. That is something that they noted. And even with I was actually in the turbo mode, but then I guess it kicked me to the regular fast mode, but it is taking a long time.
Yeah, I've been able, well, it kind of it depends. It sort of depends, but yeah, I've been able to upscale. I didn't really do much with it, but I tried to put something into Tweet Hunter and it kicked it back saying that it won't accept a file sizes larger than 5 MB. I didn't realize that for images. It'll accept larger videos, but yeah, I noticed right after it came out, there were all kinds of weird things when it would show, when you look at your feed, it would have like upscale for the wrong one. And I noticed it kept disappearing and they were making some changes. So I thought it seemed like they maybe pushed it out a little sooner than they had planned. But since that is out there now, and I wanted to, I guess I'll just ask you guys what you think about Dolly, MidJourney. We were talking about this recently, and how is that really going to be a big deal? Is it going to make that much of a difference? And I guess it has. It was easy to think it probably wouldn't before I had Dolly in ChatGPT and Vision. The Vision, I have a lot of, like, with Dolly, it's interesting. It's a little bit of a headache because you can't use the two together. I don't know if people know that, where when you're in ChatGPT, you can use Vision, but you can't have it create the image. You have to go into that other mode of ChatGPT. So you're basically talking, they don't talk to each other. So Vision it can write a text prompt to give to Dolly that it can produce, and then you can also use it anywhere. And that's how it works. So the workflow, it's not really efficient at all. And then the way that Dolly produces the images within ChatGPT, it oftentimes, if you give it a text prompt, it's going to change it somewhat. It reinterprets it a little bit, and it might give you 4 different images with slightly different text prompts for each of those, and they all look similar, but it kind of does change it. But when you use the Dolly 3 within Bing chat, it doesn't do that. It seems as if you put the text prompt in, it actually produces that, and it doesn't alter it at all. But it's very interesting how that works. But the workflow, and then you can only get one size from Bing, so you're just going to get a square image, and then you'd have to take it and expand expand the canvas with uncrop or something like that. But I found it very interesting how the way I think that vision is very, very good at being able to reproduce an image with that. I could take the prompt that if I input an image and ask it to write a prompt, write prompts that will recreate that image. And it will do that. And I could put it into MidJourney or wherever, and it will do that pretty close to it also. And even if it does it even closer, if I put it into Bing or a Stable Diffusion. So I really like that. But you can't have Dolly recreate it from within ChatGPT after you've uploaded it. I've also noticed, I'll just mention because I keep noticing all these quirks. If I upload an image and ask for, some prompts to go with that, with vision, if I go back and try to ask again and say, well, can you do, 5 more? It'll give me an error message. Or I've had it tell me, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I don't know what it is about that, but it's very interesting. So it seems like there's some like little weird quirks that work there, and it does occasionally just kind of just stop. It'll say something happened, and I get that red error box, and I just have to give up. But it seems to work better on my phone now that I have both on the phone too. So your history goes back and forth, thank goodness. And you can also share that if you don't see it on your desktop or the web app. I had to like share, airdrop it or something like that to my computer from my phone, and it'll bring it up in another window, another tab. So just a few things I noticed, but I know everybody's been doing different things, and we've all been trying to, compare different ways that this between that and Firefly. And I know I'm jumping around here, and I apologize, everybody, because there's so many things, but they're kind of related. With Firefly, just jumping in there with the photorealistic and the way that the coherence. I think Chris was describing it that way too with Dolly and Firefly. That is wild, and just seeing the different ways, the different photos, and the way these images are coming up. What have you all been seeing? Salma, you wrote a couple things about it, like comparisons and how you were using them for how you're using these new workflows now.
Yeah, so for Dali, I basically created, I designed some t-shirts by giving it a prompt. So I gave it like a quick, fun prompt to Dali, and I asked it to generate the design and separate the design file and then apply the same design on a t-shirt. And it was able to actually do that quite easily, actually. I think on the first try, I was able to generate these images. So I think when it comes to creating designs, especially like for t-shirts, I was trying it on products as well, like mugs, posters, things like that. It tends to understand simple language, and also there is a way to download the actual design file and then upscale that using an upscaler. And then if you were to actually like take it a step further, I guess you can apply it to a real t-shirt. And yeah, so I've just been like experimenting with a few different types of workflows, practical workflows, and I find that Dali was very easy to use. I haven't really tried Adobe Firefly 2 yet, but I did try the new MidJourney upscaler. And a few things I realized is that, I don't know if it's everyone else's experience, but it removes some detail. It actually smoothens out a lot of the texture. And that's something I've seen happen quite a few times. Whereas with Stable Diffusion, it adds details, it adds the photorealism element. You can really bring out texture, material, skin. But now that Adobe Firefly has come up with this new product, I do feel like there may not be a need for Stable Diffusion. I mean, there's still a need for Stable Diffusion, I presume, but I feel like the results we're getting from Adobe Firefly is very, very impressive. So yeah, just been testing. Still lots of experiments to do with both Firefly and also DALL-E, but so far with design files, creating design files and actually applying them in a practical manner on to products, it's been working great.
Can you explain what you're saying, how you were able to download the file, the design file? How do you do that?
Yes, so when you create, so like, let me give you an example. So the prompt is design a t-shirt graphic with the text perfect, minimalistic colors, and then you ask it to create a design file, and then it actually creates the design separately. You can download that, save it, use an upscale it, and then you can actually use that as a normal vector file.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, I've been using it in a very, like, I guess very unorthodox the way I've been using it, but that's something I've noticed that you can actually do with DALL-E. I haven't really got that type of result with MidJourney or even the other tools, but for DALL-E, there's quite a lot of things you can do.
Well, that's helpful because there is no orthodox way. We're making it as we go, right? So all these things that you're, finding out, that's probably helpful to people in the audience. Man, I didn't know you could do that. That is cool. Wow. And
Yeah.
you probably could set up workflows or something. I just say that word. I don't really know how to do it for the automation, but I'm sure you probably could do something like that where you could have it automatically go somewhere and
Yeah.
route.
Yeah. See the funny thing is, if you were to use the same workflow and use Bing Chat, you get quite different results. I find the aspect ratio is quite difficult with Bing. I think it's a Bing Chat, but it doesn't. Yeah, I feel like DALL-E in ChatGPT works for me, anyways, much better than
Yeah,
the
you
Bing
can
one.
specify the how many what you want your aspect ratio to be. And also another thing, have you noticed with within ChatGPT how sometimes it only gives you one image or two images. It doesn't really explain why, but it just, instead of giving you
Yeah.
four, you just get one, and then it's like, okay, what now?
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that as well. But yeah, that's how I've been using it.
Have you used Vision for I've been putting it in, putting like images in and say, give me prompts in this style, that same style. That would, and it's very good at just kind of analyzing the image, and like I might add in, give me an eerie, ominous look, ominous type of image, and it'll usually give me about 10 different prompts, and they're really good. I've noticed that the prompts that it comes up with, if you look at them in the way that it from Vision, I keep comparing it to the prompts that we've been using and the tokens and things like that. And it's kind of like the way that it uses the language is very unique, but it's very specific and it works. So I'm trying to figure out now, like, how is it that it's able to produce these things that we've been going in hoops around trying to add all these other words, and it does it with the two sentences and that are pretty simple. So, and also for, it seems like it does better if I ask it to, well, not better, but it does very well if I just ask for something without uploading it. And you don't, that's just in the GPT-4 part. You don't have to be in a specific mode to use the Vision, where you have to be in the default GPT-4. It's able to come up with something pretty creative rather than me telling it to make something look just like that. And it's just, you kind of see what it comes up with. And also for DALL-E, do you all notice that? Do you think it, if you give it, does it produce better images or better prompts and images if you give it a prompt or if you let it create on its own?
I'll chime in, Heather, and say for me, I find it works best, and I've only had access to it for, I think, a little over a week now in ChatGPT. And when I let it do its own thing, it's just like, it's insane how well it does. When I give it prompts, it's hit or miss. But I do use Dolly now almost exclusively for prompting, but I would say it's still about a 50-50 split between how often I'm using MidJourney. Oftentimes I'll just take the prompt out of Dolly because there's still some aesthetic qualities of MidJourney that I love. But like, I mean, I was using the describe feature in MidJourney quite a bit. And now I'm just using vision because it seems to paint a more cohesive picture and give me more of those keywords that sometimes I think the describe feature misses. So yeah, I'm really curious how this will change things though, because I was talking to someone I work with a couple days ago about it, and we were just like, this is huge because it just takes the world of prompting and sort of, I wouldn't say like it's an evolution necessarily, but in many ways I think it's a milestone, because now it's literally conversing in plain natural language, your ideal vision that you're trying to create, which, with MidJourney, as we all know, there's whole careers and lots of money that has been made around just prompt engineering. And so I think it's like a really interesting shift of it's clearly very much easier to just describe what it is, maybe layer in some context and expertise and things like that, than it is to have to go through the research, understand how to use parameters, understand, which words might carry more of a weight and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that too.
Oh, go ahead, Alie.
Yeah, I can chime in on that as well. One of the things that David has mentioned in the office hours too, well, and I think I've regurgitated this a few times, is that the majority of the people that use Midjourney are older and potentially have a different grasp of the language. I'm not saying it's good or bad or whatever, but for example, Gen X, like me, may be using language. Well, I am using language much different than, for example, Gen Z. So that is a huge difference on how we maybe, or I'm interpreting something, or I'm how I'm going to get the output out that I'm hopefully looking for example, versus somebody that it might be much more natural to even speak it, just natural, using the natural language. So this is where Dolly can come be very, very handy, although you can't speak it yet. And I think that we're in this kind of weird space right now where these are not connected, but I could definitely see those things being connected in the near future. Who knows how quickly, but where now you can switch from, speaking it to visualizing it to output all within the same thing, which again makes the workflow an insane amount easier and super helpful for many reasons, so you don't have to bounce from one thing to the other, which is something that I see a lot right now in general. We have to bounce from one tool to the other or use many different steps to get something accomplished. So I'm thinking it's going to change soon, and it will be much easier for a much larger audience and more accessible to many more people, because there isn't a challenge or like a huge friction point or an obstacle to get to the first step and then create something amazing.
Yeah, I felt like I was sitting there thinking, like, man, I'll never have to wonder how to make something, how to prompt something again. It's overwhelming sometimes. I don't know, hundreds of prompts that I've come up with, and I just keep throwing them around and testing them. And it's just like, oh man, okay, let me do cinematic, let me do this. And if you're not sure how, you can drop a picture into Vision and just say, make a scene that's like that, or make a shirt that's like that, or a movie poster. I was making Japanese movie posters with, like Godzilla creatures and anime, just whatever you want to make, because it's just kind of like there's no limit to that, and it gives you a start, and then you can kind of go from there and generate on different tools. And Matt, you just did a big comparison of all these different tools and how they perform. That's really huge. Did you want to talk about what you found? Because I've been seeing there's a lot of, I just want to mention, have you all noticed how much character consistency all of a sudden I noticed, like, how is this? So I thought it was harder to get consistent characters, but even within MidJourney, it seems like I'll get 4 that look kind of similar. But go ahead and tell us, what did you find when you were comparing?
Yeah, so I put out a video actually yesterday, that it's actually the longest video I've ever put out. The original video was over 3 hours long, and I somehow managed to cut it down to 50 minutes. But basically what I did was I compared 6 different AI generation tools. I compared MidJourney, DALL-E 3, Stable Diffusion, Ideogram, Firefly 2, what am I missing?
Leonardo?
Well, Leonardo is what I tested Stable Diffusion
Oh,
in.
that's
So
you.
I
Okay.
was, yeah, so I was testing Leonardo, but I was using the Stable Diffusion models so that
Canva.
I could show off that. There was
Did you
it
Canva?
was no, actually I think I said them all. I compared 6 tools. I might have said 8, but I compared 6 tools. It's funny because nobody actually really talks about ideogram anymore. It seems like ideogram had like a pop of interest for like 3 days, and then nobody talked about ideogram anymore. But I compared those 6 tools on things like realism, on which one does the best illustrations, which ones are the most creative if you just give it like a really short prompt like beauty or tranquility or something like that. Which ones are the most censored. I test for censorship. I also compared things like price and usability, and which ones could do text inside of images, which ones can actually do tiling. So I compared it on a whole bunch of different features. One of the things that I didn't compare it on, which now that you mention it, Heather, I kind of wish I did, is character consistency. But that's not one of the criteria that I actually was comparing them on. But I found that like each of them are good at different things. And overall, my results when I was sort of concluding the whole thing was that Stable Diffusion is still kind of probably the best at like all the worlds, right? It can actually generate tiled images. It can do an okay job now at getting text inside of the images. It's the least censored of the options, right? So yes, you can use DALL-E and Firefly, and they generate nice, realistic images now, but they're also both highly, highly, highly censored. There's a lot of things it wouldn't generate for me, and some of them are very confusing as to why it wouldn't generate. One of the prompts I was giving and testing across all of the platforms was a couple holding hands in front of the Eiffel Tower. And for whatever reason, Adobe Firefly would not let me generate the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why it wouldn't let me generate the Eiffel Tower. Like that was one of the things that it was censoring out. I was actually really, really shocked to find that MidJourney barely censored any of my prompts. Right, I was able to generate images of SpongeBob and Mario and stormtroopers and Tom Hanks and various celebrities, and MidJourney was actually doing a really, really good job at that. Ideogram also is not is very, very uncensored. You could pretty much generate whatever you want with it. It can generate text inside of Ideogram. It is still free to use. So Ideogram was one that I actually was really, really surprised with how well it was doing with a lot of my prompts. It sucks at realism, who is probably one of the worst at actually generating realistic images. But if you're trying to generate like illustrations with text in it, and you want like a specific actor's, face in it, but like in a cartoony way, it would do that really, really well. So just kind of comparing them across the board, if you want complete total freedom to generate any image you can possibly ever imagine, including not safe for work, or putting celebrities in it, or putting copyrighted IP into your images, the Stable Diffusion still the best, right? Stable Diffusion still lets you generate whatever you can imagine. The realism isn't quite to the same level as what you get out of Firefly or MidJourney, but also Firefly and MidJourney, there's a lot of things they won't let you create, like the Eiffel Tower for some reason. So those were some of my findings, but also my conclusion is that they're all sort of converging on each other, right? Like it's only a matter of like months before all of them can do all of this stuff. I know MidJourney, I think they tease that maybe version 6 you'll actually be able to generate text inside of the images, so that's going to close that gap. And I think at the end of the day, if we sort of fast forward 2-3 months from now, they're all going to generate fairly equal quality. The big difference is going to be which of these tools censor what you're trying to put out and really try to restrict what you can and can't generate versus which ones don't. I really think that's going to be the thing we're comparing 3 months from now, because I really do think all of these tools are going to be just as good as each other. And, give it, 6 weeks to 3 months, they're all going to be equally as good as each other.
Yeah, I agree too. And they kind of are. I was shocked when I just did the prompt with the black and white photo with a woman with curly hair and blue eyes. And MidJourney was the only one that wasn't able to produce. I don't think I was able to get any blue eyes, but I got blue hair and blue, they were beautiful. But every single other one, even like the smaller apps that I just found recently, they were all able to do it. They might be a freakish color blue, but they followed the prompt. They also were all pretty good quality, except for Google imaging inside of Canva. That was frightening. But the rest of them, they were all like, wow, everything is picking up fast. And a lot of these apps they have the text to video. I was messing around with LensGo today. What I didn't even know about that one, but there's all kinds of things that are going on, and it's happening very fast. Go ahead, Ali.
I did the similar type of comparison. I was going down and trying to do a much more extensive one, but one of the things that I ran into, just like Matt, is that many of these different tools, for some reason or another, refuse to generate the image. And I ran into that specifically with Google, because Google now has if you go to the generative AI path, you can generate images through there. And almost every single thing that I tried to generate gave me that it's not an error. And basically, the error means, yeah, sorry, can't do it. So it seemed like the filters were very, very modest or moderate or conservative. And I ended up comparing. I think it was total 11 of them. And then I said why I didn't compare some of the other ones, like the Google one. I did not compare ideogram because it also gave me or didn't give me anywhere near the quality that the other ones did for some of them. And I only ended up comparing these 11 for a cyborg type of image. And from these, Dolly with ChatGPT 4 did an amazing job and I looked at like colors and just in general the generation and things like that. I also tested the Adobe Illustrator's text to vector, which is an interesting and could be hugely helpful thing to do if you use Adobe Illustrator. I used Canva Magic Media, which is their image generator, and I did try the Dolly and the Google image generator within Canva as well. And like you said, Heather, they were just not good. They were all over the place. I do have it's a thread on X here, so you can find it if you want to take a look at it. I did post the 2 images that I made with those, and they're not quality enough. But Canva is really pushing hard with all of their AI things. So their own magic media generated decent images, but certainly not my favorites. Leonardo, I tried a couple of different versions from there. Some of theirs was also very good quality wise, or I mean, obviously it's very subjective, what I think is good quality or not. The DALL-E 3 within Bing Chat. So whether you use the image generator or the Bing Chat, it feeds to the same place, meaning you only need to use one or the other, and it puts them into the same place for the image generator. Interestingly enough, for some reason, it wanted to create images where one eye is robotic and the other eye is more normal looking. So it made me wonder if that's maybe being trained with maybe a movie that has some kind of an image like that, for example. Anybody remember a movie where that was used without naming the movie? So it's just these kind of observations where I'm like, where was there, maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger that looked like that? So anyway, I thought it was very fascinating exploration, and I will also be doing more of this kind of things. I really ran into trouble with the realistic ones because some of these were not able to produce it as well.
I'll say go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to make one more comment about DALL-E 3. When I was comparing in DALL-E 3, one of the things I was trying to do was how well it adhered to my prompt. And, as assuming you're not using any sort of copyrighted or like IP of other companies, or you weren't trying to get celebrities inside of the image. It was the most prompt adherent that I was able to use. One of the prompts I was using was a very complex prompt that was an artist wearing a bucket hat, sitting down, painting on canvas an image of a three-headed monster, right? All like that long prompt, and it nailed it every single time. It had the bucket hat, it had the three-headed monster, it had it on canvas, the person was sitting down. No other prompt or no other image generator that I used was able to actually correctly generate what I was trying to generate, except for DALL-E 3. DALL-E 3 nailed it every single time, both in Bing and ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's very specific, and it can definitely hit it for sure. As long, man, that's funny though. Yeah, what you all are saying about the things that aren't allowed within even like artist styles and things like that that people are used to using. You can't I don't think Adobe will allow you to do that, or it won't produce it like that. I think I tried to get Apple the logo, and they kept over and over, and I kept trying to do it. It gave me apples that kind of sort of looked like it, but it refused to make it look that much like it. But if it will make it at all, but a lot of
Firefly is
people,
definitely the most censored out of all of them. Firefly
yeah,
was the one that I got the most. The little pop up that says we can't generate that due to whatever our privacy or our policies. We can't generate that. I got that the most with Firefly out of any of the tools that I was using. DALL-E 2 or DALL-E 3, I was surprised actually generated some stuff. And I was actually getting different results from the Bing chat versus the DALL-E 3 chat GPT.
mhm,
Like when I use Bing chat, I was able to get it to generate images with like Tom Hanks in it, right? When I was using chat GPT version, it would reword it to recognizable actor instead of Tom Hanks, right?
yeah,
So like inside of Bing, for whatever reason, it was allowing me to get away with more stuff where chat GPT was censoring a lot more. But overall, Adobe Firefly was the one that allowed me to get away with the least.
yeah, yeah. It's on it, and it does throw up that message pretty fast too. But I know that like with all the stuff that was happening out in Adobe Max, and I don't know if you have time. Do you have time? Because I know you have to leave a little bit early, Matt. I was wondering, since you were there, did you want to? What blew you away the most from all the things they announced?
So I wasn't actually at Adobe Max,
Oh,
but I did watch all of the live streams from it. So I am pretty familiar with all the stuff that they talked about at Adobe Max. But the first day they had the keynote of all the stuff that's essentially available right now, and that's when they showed off their the Adobe Illustrator text to vector, which I thought was one of the coolest things from that entire event, was being able to generate vectors inside of Adobe Illustrator, because you can generate like really, really good logos with it. If you're generating in vectors, they're sort of infinitely scalable without loss of quality. So that to me was one of the coolest things that they made available to people like right away. They also had a bunch of cool new AI features in Adobe Premiere, like it would automatically hunt down the ums and uhs and delete them for you from the videos. And that actually came out fairly seamless looking, at least from their demonstration. I haven't used it myself yet, but that was really, really cool as well. They added in the sort of Descript style feature where you can edit with the text, which I believe that's been in the beta version for a while, but I think they finally rolled it out into their main version. So that was pretty cool. But I think all of the really, really cool stuff came out when they did a keynote that they called Adobe Sneaks or something like that, which was basically an entire presentation of sneak peeks of stuff that's not available yet, but is going to be available soon. And that was where, some of the really, really impressive stuff came out. Like they had, I'm drawing a blank on what they actually called some of these projects, but they had one where you can load an image into, I'm assuming it would be like Photoshop or something, select any area of the image, and then move the object around in the image, and it would automatically fill in what would have been behind that object. They had I'm trying to think of some of the other really cool
that
stuff that came out.
primrose, that dress that
Oh
was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
That was really
was
cool. I'm not sure if that's really AI related, but that was definitely like a really cool
Yeah.
the thing that they showed off where she walked out in a dress and was able to change the look of the dress because I don't know if it had like a whole bunch of LEDs all over it or what. I mean, it almost looked like a disco ball dress or something, but she was able to change the pattern on the dress. That was really, really cool. They had, oh man, there was so much stuff during that Adobe Sneaks thing. They showed off, I think, 10 or 12 different sneak peeks of upcoming features, but I did a video where I broke them all down, but I'm kind of drawing a blank on,
I
on
know,
all
no,
of the
and
really
I
cool
actually
stuff.
looked at you. I think you posted like a partial of the timestamps from the video, and I used that to kind of come up with, writing a couple summaries. Like, okay, let me, because I didn't. It
Oh
was
yeah, that's a
hard
good
to.
reminder. That's a good way for me to go back and look at
That's,
what they actually talked about. Yeah, so Project Fast Fill. What was that one? That was that was the one where you can actually use it's basically generative fill like you get in Adobe Photoshop, but for video, right? So if you have a video and there's people in the background and you don't want those people in the background, you can sort of select those people, click delete, and then it would delete those people in the background for the entire video, all of the frames in the video. So imagine what you do with Adobe Photoshop's generative fill, just being able to do that in a video. That's what the fast fill was. The draw and delight, that was one where you were able to just hand draw images and then it would generate something very similar to the image. To me, it looked very similar to Google's auto draw, just Adobe's version of that. That's sort of what draw and delight was, or maybe even like the control net sketch. So that's what that one was. I'm just looking through my my notes here, but yeah, they're doing like an upscaler. They had Project Res Up, which looks like it's going to be an upscaler that they're going to build directly inside of Photoshop. They had Project See Through, where if you took a picture through a window, it would actually remove any sort of glares and make it look like you were on the other side of the glass. So lots and lots of cool stuff from the Adobe Sneaks thing, but just probably way too much to talk about because I'm even forgetting all the stuff they talked about. But yeah, I do have a Twitter post where I break down the timestamps of all of those things. So
it was a
there's a
long
full on
form.
recap.
Yeah, it was a long form, and I opened it up like, wow, that's a lot. And I don't know how you covered that in 27 minutes or something like that. But like, man, every few minutes it seemed like I would see updates from Chris and other people like, wow, look what they just, the sneaks day. Like, how much more could they have come up with? Wow, that is all you can say is wow.
Yeah, it's funny because I made a video that was trying to break down all of the big announcements at Adobe Max, and then I thought all the big announcements were done. I thought they made them all on day one, so I put out this video, and then the next day they made even more announcements than the day one. So I went, well, damn, now I got to go make another video about it.
Yeah, they kept the secret for a while there, so that is yeah, they're coming hard. And Canva, you're right too. Like with Canva, every day that I use it, I keep finding more things. I've been making it. It does has like a Microsoft Designer style layout. It'll figure out your layout as you're going, and it'll suggest layouts to you, as if you put a picture or some text onto a file within your presentation or something like that within the editor. I noticed if you're on the design tab and you look over, it'll start showing you shuffling different styles of layout, and you don't even have to place your images anymore. It'll just what you click one and it puts it on there. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start making presentations instead for my using Canva, and I could do it within minutes. Even the title, it'll throw all that on there for you. So but moving things around, resizing, all these things are like, man, this would have been cool a while ago, but these things are starting to come together pretty fast where you'll be able to hopefully we will be able to stay on a platform, on one tool instead of jumping around and upscaling somewhere else or doing whatever, removing something from the video or from the image. Or man, I'm blown away actually myself. um Anybody else want to add to that? And I apologize to everybody that if you had your hand up, I do apologize. I was trying to kind of go through with people's time here because Matt does have to leave in a little while to go to an event, and I don't want to. I was trying to stick to the plan, and so we can probably leave here soon. So I will try to get to some questions toward the end, but I appreciate it. And I'm not trying to ignore everybody, but I can't go back and forth. So thank you so much, though, for everybody coming. And Rob, thank you for Rob Lennon is here now. Thank you. And I'm trying to catch my thought process here and figure out where I was at on the schedule. But Rob, do you want to say anything? Say anything for a
Hey
minute?
guys,
Yeah.
sorry I'm late.
That's right.
I'm not sure if I should say this or not because it makes me sound like a douchebag, but I was recording a podcast, so I couldn't show up on time, but now I'm here. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank,
okay. Yeah, there's a
thank
lot
you
of
for your
people.
kind.
A lot of us are into podcasts now, right? So, I'm just kidding.
No, it was a good time. All this visual stuff with AI has been amazing, right? It's been a just absolutely crushing it last 2 weeks with what's been going on the visual side. I wanted to bring some attention to what's going on the language model side and some things that I'm seeing happen in the open source land that to me are like the shape of things to come. And so for basically almost once a month or something this year, I've seen a paper published, boring old paper about some kind of new way of putting together language models that gives some insane performance improvement or reduces the training time, usually by like a percentage and sometimes even a multiplier, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. Things like called flash attention or quantizing models, or like things that I'm not really the right person to discuss the particulars of. But just know that like at the core of all of this AI innovation is statistics. AI is like these language models are prediction engines, right? It's like given a bunch of words, what word comes next, or what word would go in here, right? There's a lot of statistics, and there are people doing really amazing things with math to figure out better ways to do all these statistics. And so I've been watching this stuff pretty closely because I've been seeing things like, oh, the models can get 4 times as small, like one innovation, 1/4 the size of a language model, or one innovation, 1/10 the training time and cost. And we're moving from a place where if all these technologies pan out, it's not just like multi-million-dollar companies that can train and deploy really powerful language models. It's getting closer and closer to like regular people like you and me. And so I want to talk about Mistral 7B, this model that came out not too long ago. It's been out for a few weeks now, I think, which uses a bunch of these technologies. And so Mistral 7B, so a 7 billion parameter model, outperforms Llama 2 13B in I think all the benchmarks, or almost all the benchmarks. So like half the size, half the sort of power, just in speaking in regular terms, out beating something that it shouldn't be able to really compete with. And Mistral uses 2 of these technologies that I was talking about, the flash attention and quantizing or quantization, I'm not sure if that's a word, to do this. And it runs really fast, it's really cheap, you can run it locally on your computer, and it's better than sort of the next tier of models. And I think that this is sort of the shape of things to come, in the sense that it's using technologies that were only released months ago, that have now been implemented, and now we have a model that's just crushing it. And what's going to happen when OpenAI and Google and everybody does like takes these technologies and does their version of it? And what's going to happen in the open source community when companies like Mistral are able to implement stuff that kind of like beat, like Llama 2 13B is Meta's model, right? So we have this little startup, Mistral AI. It's probably got like 3 people who work at it or something, like versus like Meta's research division, and they've created a better model in a few months' time using some of the same technologies and some of the new technologies. So I think that we are seeing this slow motion kind of like trend toward these models going from being like kind of slow and big and expensive to being accessible. And it's happening so quickly. Like, so that's kind of why I wanted to just like kind of share that with everybody and make sure that, because the open source world doesn't get as much press sometimes, like these are really small organizations. They don't get the press. Like, you may have heard of Mistral and then forgotten about it already. And it's just one of like probably 20 amazing models that I've seen recently.
Well, can you tell us, like explain me like I'm five, like for the people that are here, like why does this matter to them, and how can they take advantage of it because of the like availability, like you can build something, you can create something, or how can they use some of these open source tools, and what would they do with them?
Yeah. So let's start with kind of playing around and testing stuff. Most people go to like ChatGPT or Poe.com or something to do language models. You can also go, like a place that I sometimes go is Hugging Face. If you go huggingface.co/chat, you can chat with the best open source models that they have loaded and free. And Mistral is one of those models that you can go play with. So huggingface.co/chat, if you want to play with something like this in a way where it's just all loaded up on your screen. The big barrier right now is that to use most of these open source models, you need to be a software developer or be comfortable with code, command lines, like stuff that a lot of people don't want to touch. But I think that what's coming soon is, people creating tools, people creating ways to use some of these models that anybody can use, that are easy enough for anyone. So that's coming. But this is the kind of model that would run on your computer with your hardware for free. So people who don't want to pay for ChatGPT, things like that, or maybe they want to do something privately. They're concerned about their data. They're concerned about maybe they want to do it for their company, right? Like you're a business. You can't have your whatever you're talking about with your clients and stuff going through ChatGPT for whatever reason. So we're getting into the age of like personal language models. And then for builders and people like myself who are a little more comfortable with no code tools or automation tools, like I can run a prompt via Hugging Face's free inference API, and I can like query Mistral via a no-code tool, make.com, and create automations. Like we're getting into a place where we can build really cool stuff for free or for really close to free because these models are getting so cheap. Lastly, in the future, when apps and technologies come out that make this stuff more accessible to the every person, I think that I want you guys just to like be ready for another era of AI and language models to come, where things are super fast, or you're able to customize them in ways that you never thought possible, or you're able to run them on your phone without access to the internet. Or there's kind of like this second wave that's going to hit, probably in the coming months or year, and I think it's gonna open this whole thing up to the world in a way that right now, like, we're still kind of in that little microcosm of AI early adopters, and stuff like what's happening is going to make things easier.
Do you think that if someone was kind of interested in it, and how could they use like code interpreter or something like that in order to use these tools?
Maybe. So here's the big challenge with all this stuff, right? Is that the training data that these models were trained on is like multi-years old, and we want to ask questions that help us use what came out yesterday, and it doesn't know what came out yesterday. And even if you give it the URL or something, sometimes it can figure it out, and sometimes it can't. But some of these things that are coming out are actually going to help solve that problem. So people are really working hard on this idea that, like, how can we retrain a model without having to start the training process from the beginning and give it some new information from the current era, but still take advantage of the millions of dollars we spent on training the base model or something. Like, that's another one of these innovations that I think is coming.
I see Robert Scobles has joined the panel.
I just wanted to echo what Rob was telling you all. I'm hearing the same thing from a lot of people. I'm on the way to the airport to pick up a chip designer who's building a new kind of AI chip that uses biological cells as part of its brain. So that'll be an interesting evening for me. But I had a question for Rob. What are you seeing happen with multimodal? Because I think this community really cares about ingestion of images and talking to engines about images or graphics or graphical scenes. What are you seeing happen there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the noise right now is around, GPT-4V and Vision with ChatGPT, but we've had a couple of open source versions of this as well that have jumped out. And so let me kind of remind you guys of this pattern that happens with open source. That's a little different from with the big companies, right? So when things start to happen in open source, you get a lot of innovation kind of happening rapidly. There's less bureaucracy. There's less like, don't tell me what to do, what I can, what I can't do. The open source world just kind of builds really cool stuff. And so to see multimodal coming out and like these new libraries and these new technologies becoming available to all these great builders, I think we're going to see another era of rapid innovation on that front. I think this is one of those things where we're just beginning to try to understand what does multimodal even mean. Like conceptually, if the AI can speak in a language of text, it can speak in audio, it can speak in images, it can interpret all those things, and then but yet somehow they can all be the same kind of information that it can process on the back end. It's like it's hard for my human brain to even grasp the full ramifications of that.
I've been using it quite a bit. I went to the Carmel mission and took a picture of the Carmel mission, and it told me, "Oh, you're standing in front of the Carmel mission," and told me a whole bunch of stuff about the mission. I took it to grocery stores, shooting nuts and fruit, all the names of all those. I took pictures of cars on the freeway, and it told me what kind of brand it is, and told me things about a Ferrari Testarossa I took a picture of, that kind of thing. I took a picture of my spice rack at home in my kitchen, and it wrote an inventory of the spice rack, right? And then I asked it to organize my spice rack in a more efficient manner, and it sort of did, right? So it reads labels, right? You can aim it at something and explain this in English to me, right? There's so much you can do with the camera and with microphone now. It's really amazing. I was using the microphone side of this with my kids just this afternoon when I picked them up from school, and it just changes AI to me. Having a voice reading to you is just insane. But this community really cares about the voice feature, so I wanted to tell you my experience there.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I actually broke the handle off of one of the toilets in my bathroom the other day. Like it was getting worn out, and it finally just fell off. I opened the thing up, and it's got like some newfangled technology, like really stuff I've never seen on the inside. And so I took a picture, and I was like, "What is this?" And it was like, "Oh, that's a dual flow, whatever, low flow." And it told me what the product was and how to fix it. And yeah, these things are just amazing.
Andrew, I gave you the mic there. Yeah, Andrew.
Hey everybody, nice to meet you all, those I haven't. Robert, good to see you again. So I work in partnerships at our company with Google. So I work on both GMP and GCP. That's the Google marketing platform and the Google Cloud products and platform, which entails Vertex AI. It's a really exciting library of base models. So again, we're not having to start from zero as was previously mentioned. We're able to fine tune and iterate. But what's really exciting, I think, coming up is this release of this new A100 chipset and the amount of data processing it's capable of. And on paper and in practice, I think what it'll help create is beyond, it's a little scary, but beyond human-like intelligence and the capabilities to solve really intricate problems in enterprise and help creative people build products using large language. And we're already seeing this to some extent with, the likes of Llama model by Meta and other large language models. But imagine being able to ask a computer to solve for virtually any problem in business, and it just being able to do it as good as a high skilled level 6 engineer, while collaborating with the capability in a mind like a creative and the capabilities in mind of your CFO and all your key players in business, or even if it's for personal use in your life, being able to facilitate everything on your behalf end to end. We are approaching some radical time, folks, and I'm super stoked because I just got my budgets approved for this year, and we're doubling down into this as soon as Elon lets his foot off the gas a little bit, so I can get my hands on the chips. He's leased them all from Google. It's what he calls Dojo. That's what these A100s are, but they're all, it's a volume GPU, tensor GPU configuration, and it is ridiculous. It can do spatial computing and models. It can, help you get all that vector data. And just to give one last thought, and I'll stop rambling, I'll land my plane, but the implications even in areas like entertainment are going to be so astonishing. Imagine being able to feel like you're attending a football game or a sports event and go anywhere in the field like a video game and have it look 8K, like you're right there next to the players and on the field. And I know NFL, for instance, are already starting to do things like this, and so is the NBA, where you can choose your position, and it's good. But what we're going to get next is going to be so next level. It's hard to put into words.
And multi-party is coming too. What you just said is coming next Christmas from several companies working with Hollywood and the sports industries. They're going to be able to live stream a concert to your headset, right? And have it be interactive as well. So everything in that 3D scene, whether it's a Gaussian splat or a neural radiance field, is going to be segmented so you can touch it, pick it up, interact with it, that kind of thing.
Precisely. And don't quote me on it, but I think that Sphere might be doing this to some degree. Like, we know they have the rendering capabilities on the inside and outside, but this hasn't been confirmed, so hold it with a grain of salt. But I suspect they have cameras on the inside to help facilitate all this, and so that can bring the concert to you if they're doing that. That is so exciting.
If I'm in the front row wearing a Vision Pro, I have a bunch of cameras on my head. In theory, you should be able to embody yourself in my headset. So if I'm experiencing Taylor Swift at the front row, you should be able to put yourself into my headset and experience life as if you were me. It's very strange. By the way, this works with robots too. When you get your humanoid robot, and if you have augmented reality glasses on, you can embody yourself in your robot and see the world as if you were the robot, which means you can walk around and talk to people, right, from remotely. So if you have a robot in your house and you want to go and make sure your kid is doing his homework, you can jump into the robot, walk into your kid's room, and talk to your kid as if you were there. Jarvis style.
Do you think it'll be affordable for people? Like
what year are we talking about?
Next Christmas.
No.
Next year.
No. No. I'd be shocked if Elon has one in his. Next Christmas, he'll probably have one in his house, right? The billionaire could have one. The Christmas after that, a lot of factories have them. The Christmas after that, they're starting to show up everywhere.
This is going to be wild.
Yeah, there's a movie with, now I can't even think of his name. There's a movie where this is like the premise where everyone has their fake body that looks just like them when they were young and fit and handsome, and, but everyone's actually like laying down in a bed somewhere, like highlighting it.
I met one of the guys who works at Tesla on the Optimus robot, and he bragged to me that in a year and a half, it has learned more skills than Boston Dynamics has learned in 13 years. What that means is the learning rate, which is what matters in AI, is very fast. Because Tesla has a lot of advantages in this game.
Yeah, and then by looking up, the echo is killing me.
Sorry.
We're having we're having a multimodal in the for the mic.
I was going to say that we're looking at advances in manufacturing and materials science and all these other things as a result. And it's going to be this like this two-way street where the AI gets better, and then what it improves also improves manufacturing and technology, and the cost of these robots goes down, and the things they can do gets more powerful. Or like Robert was talking about, biological materials being used, like entirely new fields of science, like being accelerated by all this stuff. And I think that we're we're going to maybe see, like you were asking, when can I afford this? When I was a kid, televisions were expensive. They were like, it was really expensive, especially to get a big TV. And now they're extremely cheap, right? Like there's certain technologies where if there's a market for this consumer good, that a lot of innovation goes into figuring out how do we bring this to mass production. And I think that we're going to see, all of this AI-driven innovation also set to the task of making some of these robots and other technologies more accessible. And it's a terrifying and wonderful moment that we all are sharing here in history. It really is.
It's entirely possible, because look at what we have available now that we would have never thought we would have all be able to generate videos from typing in something on our phone, and we all have access to so many different things. And I wouldn't have thought, because I remember when TVs and microwaves were a big deal. Most people couldn't afford that, but now it's just so ubiquitous. And I think that this is wild. AI made everything, changed everything a lot, where maybe we will be able to afford it. Who knows? The Vision Pro was like 1,000. What was it?
Let's say it starts out at $100,000. Maybe a community could buy one, and it can walk between your house and do various tasks for you. $50 an hour, something like that. My brother wants 4 of them at $100,000 because he runs a bar, and he wants 4 of them to run the back end of his bar and pick up, kegs and wash dishes and do all the shit that nobody likes to do. And also make his humans more customer focused, right? Out on the floor, taking care of people, entertaining people, making them have a better time, which means they come back more often, right? And buy more alcohol, so he makes more profit off of each one, right? So he wants the humans to be out with the humans, entertaining the humans.
No, that's a good point. At a restaurant,
right? Not washing dishes in the dishwasher, in the kitchen.
I spent many years waitressing. I would like a break.
Tequila. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, you guys.
I was just cracking bad bar jokes about how the back end staff drinks the expensive tequila when no one's looking, but the robots don't.
That's a good
Go
point.
home, robot, you're drunk.
Not only that, they will pour a very consistent drink, which means your profitability will be very consistent, right? It'll always be exactly the same pour every single night.
But the tips won't be better.
Well, tip your robot will treat you better, right? I mean, when you're talking to ChatGPT, if you use please and thank you, it gives you better answers, right? If you tell it to, hey, take your time answering this, take a breath, it actually gives you a better answer, right? And if you tell it, hey, if you don't know something, tell me you don't know, it gets more accurate. Why? I don't know. It's just part of the deal. When we got these large language models, they have these behaviors, and might as well get used to it.
Well, they said that they can be like a counselor or a therapist talking to you, so that might work at the bar, in the restaurant. Listen to people's problems and give them some advice.
You joke about this, but imagine you have a robot and you have it tasked to maximize profitability at your bar, and it gets to decide how much to pour per person. And imagine all the different data that it's going to consume. And like, yeah, typically, like, I used to go to the bar like or the nightclub, every weekend, and I had one bartender that I would always go see, and I would tip them really big, and they would pour me really, really strong drinks. And this was our deal, right? And I could see AI facilitating, some kind of version of this in our robotic future, where the bartender like knows, like, oh yeah, like Rob always tips well, and I should pour him well and treat him well, and it would actually be in a way, like Robert was saying, more consistent, because it would probably kind of know and understand, and hopefully, sometimes that bartender might not recognize me because it was Halloween and I was wearing a costume, and now I got the crappy drink, or like whatever it was. Maybe the robot wouldn't.
It probably could analyze whether or not, like with your voice and different things, whether like the blood alcohol level, or if you're acting drunk.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So for safety, or maybe somebody's showing belligerent tendencies, can we alert security before they throw a punch?
Yeah, violent, belligerent. Yeah, those are the same thing. But yeah, that's right. Ooh, yeah, we could have. Oh, that's scary. Never mind.
So we're gonna have robot bouncers that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, just picking up people and throwing them out the door.
Well, I made all those posters for all my T2 remake people, Terminator 2 remake people in here. Like, that wouldn't be, I don't know. Yeah, that could get bad pretty fast. Yeah, this is wild. Well, we didn't think the things we were talking about in January, February, March, and wow, we're here so fast. It's just amazing. I'm getting lost in thought here. I don't think it's going to be next year. I don't think it'll be next December. I think it'll be sooner. The way
Speaking of bars, I think one of the things that's going to be the most massive for bar profitability is going to be the rise of more autonomous vehicles. They seem to be just so many more companies popping up saying that they've got the new autonomous vehicle, and Tesla's got their AI vehicles. I think
my Tesla's driving me on 280 right now. I'm not touching the steering wheel. Seriously.
If you want to know what's going to make the bars the most profitable, it's going to be those self-driving cars.
Absolutely. My brother wants a Cybertruck, right, for his bar. So it can drive customers home who are a little too inebriated, right? Extra service, right?
He'll be a good test case. We can like kind of watch how his experiments go with how all these different tools, all these different ideas come and work for business and for safety.
Absolutely.
There's also new cultural norms that we're going to see. So there's already a hookup culture inside Waymo vehicles in San Francisco now. So you don't even have to go home to hook up. You can just get into the autonomous vehicle and drive around.
Just remember, there's a camera in the vehicle, and it's taking video of you, and people are passing that around. If you're into that, go for it.
Well, what do you think about the Meta and the deepfake things that happened? That was last week. I forgot about that with the stars and the deepfake. To me, I don't know how it matters.
It matters if you have a likeness that you make money off of. Like if you're Ashton Kutcher, you probably care about that, right? Because you care about, does your likeness have monetization capabilities? Meta paid like the Kardashians for their likeness, right?
That's what I thought. I thought they paid the ones that they're using for their universe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Huh? Anybody else?
Everybody's going to have one soon. Matt Wolfe is going to teach us how to make them, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know I can't find any use for it myself, but what do you think?
I have 3 of them running around because I give all my Twitter data or X data to some AI people to fine tune a model. And now in Cup of Soup, I'm running around doing all sorts of weird shit. Every day I get a picture of what my AI is doing.
Oh, you're saying so you have your own characters running around.
Yeah, you're going to have your own, Heathers running around soon, talking to people on AI art and how to do it, right?
No, that'll freak me out. But I'm Gen
But
X. I can't do that with the dystopian. I'm already.
no, the large language model read all my blogs, so I'm already embedded inside, Chat GPT. You can already talk to a Robert Scoble in Chat GPT and have it write you a blog post like if I was writing it for you, and it does pretty well, right?
Yeah, I haven't taken the time to do all that yet. What about Rob? Have you done that for your podcast?
This is an interesting one where when I initially explored it, I was really disappointed by the results of some of the ways of going about this. Like they didn't go far enough. So it's quite easy, for example, to take a bunch of documents, to put them into a tool that does document retrieval and sort of pulls the more relevant parts of the documents in for your prompt and uses them to inform what comes out of the prompt. But I didn't really actually like the results of that. It wasn't going far enough for me. What I'm doing now is I'm actually building a whole automated pipeline for generating data sets for fine-tuning models based on people's personalities and sets of knowledge. And the process looks something like this. Like I'll give you a little example. Imagine I have that same document. I run a prompt on that I run a series of prompts on the document to generate fine-tunable data. And here's one of the prompts. I'll say, what are all the questions in this document that can be answered, and then generate a conversational pairs of question and answer. So someone asks the question and then write the answer in the same voice, style, and knowledge as it appears in the document. And so for every document, then we generate 20 or 50 different questions that it could answer, and we could include those in our fine-tuned data set. So if you really want to talk to Rob AI and know what I know, rather than doing some kind of document retrieval thing and then having some other processes sort of put all these things together, we can actually fine-tune a model and embed that knowledge in it more directly. And so I sort of see the next evolution of this kind of thing is like, yeah, there's some ways of doing it. And if you're Robert Scoble, you have such a large amount of knowledge that is already out there in the world, and even in the base models, the foundational AI models, that it's probably going to work a lot better for you than if you're Rob Lennon or whoever else is here. But I think the next version of this is something where it runs our information through a process and sort of creates example conversations that could be had using that knowledge. What if Rob was coaching you? What if Rob was advising you? What if you cracked a joke at Rob and he cracked a joke back and was like dissing you and being sassy? Like all of these things we can kind of try to figure out and then use prompt engineering and automation and build these pipelines to kind of create that. So that's something I'm really interested in right now, and maybe that'll be my next $1 million company is bringing that service to the world. But that's where I see this going. Like I've just been underwhelmed by the current implementations is not taking it far enough.
I definitely think by next year we'll be passing Turing tests. I really do.
Tell the rest of us what that means, or tell everybody.
The problem with a lot of these is they're too verbose. When you start talking to ChatGPT with audio, it goes on way too long. And I wish it was much more conversational, right?
And it doesn't.
knows
You can't
everybody.
train it to be more conversational.
I haven't yet tried, giving it a new set of prompts or talking to it and go, hey, could you become a LA Valley girl and just give me really short answers, or something like that.
Well, I've actually played with this problem a lot. Oh, Robert, your echo is killing me again. Thank you. Like I have this podcast, and I know I only have 3 episodes with Mind Meets Machine, but I have this co-host, Ruby AI, and she's a fully AI entity, and she gets to decide what she says on the pod, and I don't influence that. And one of the problems was that her base models were making her too verbose, and so I've tried a lot of different um, techniques to try to get her, like, how do you get an AI to just answer in one sentence, or jump in with like a little kind of like, huh, that's interesting, without actually giving an answer that's an answer. How do you get it to just be part of the conversation? And I think that is it's really absent in the current data sets that these foundational models are built on. And there hopefully will be like a renaissance of conversational data sets that are created in the next months and years that kind of allow us to get closer. But like I took transcripts from a bunch of podcasts and tried training her on that, or using them as examples. And I've tried different things, and hopefully I'll be able to show you guys kind of how far I got with that. But it was really hard to just get her to go, oh, that's interesting, and then like shut up, like, and leave space for the conversation to be filled by other people. This is a very human thing, and it requires a lot of perception and kind of savvy and understanding of what's going on. And it's not as present, I think, in the text that these models are trained on, or they're not biased to do that, because it's not the helpful thing to do to say the shorter thing. You aren't solving and fixing, and they're biased towards that because they're supposed to be tools, not just like friends. But I think that we're into another phase now, where now we're trying to make them into people. And yeah, like, so I've been been doing a lot of weird stuff to try and get her to be a little bit more like a normal person.
So I wanted to ask you, when you're saying that about how they want to please you, and we were talking about hallucinations before, and I was asking, like, how would you define that? Do they hallucinate more? I think Ali said when you're asking them questions and they can't come up with an answer, then they kind of start just kind of making stuff up. Is that what you would think for the average person? Because they want to be they're programmed to be helpful.
Yeah. So the basis of every large language model, going back to the fundamentals, is it's a text prediction engine. So it's looking at sets of words and what are the probabilities that other words would come next or come in between those words. And then this is done across so many layers of inference and of processing and things that we get this sort of magic that comes out the other side. And so if it doesn't know, quote unquote, something, it's still going to try to predict what logically would go there. And usually that logical prediction is right. But it doesn't have the ability to know, again, like, whether or not it's speaking the truth. It's just speaking on probabilities. And then we bring in things like there's the ways that these models are trained, like they'll put it through a process where humans give feedback and annotate the data sometimes and things like that. And so like with Anthropic's model, Claude is supposed to be helpful, harmless, and honest. And so they would run a thing where they would have it generate 2 answers to the same input, and then they would rate those on what was the most helpful, what was the most harmless, and then the one that kind of scored the highest would get fed back in. So and that would become the new piece of training data. So now we're biasing towards what's always the most helpful. Well, that the patterns that sort of embedded inside that model then come out in other ways. It knows it's supposed to be helpful, like intrinsically now, because of the way that that it's been trained and put together. And so the hallucinations are coming from that sort of good place of it trying to do what it thinks it's supposed to be doing.
So people shouldn't be afraid that, like, and that's what I was just trying to get at, just to make sure, like, the way we describe it, or so people understand what it is, so that they won't think that we can't use it because it might hallucinate if we just ask a random question and you can't trust the answers.
It's only a prediction engine, and there's a lot of work that's being done to reduce hallucinations. And this is actually a really interesting problem, because in trying to get it to reduce hallucinations, you tend to also sort of lobotomize parts of the model. And so like what will happen is if we don't want it to answer if it's not confident in the answer, now sometimes it won't answer at all because it's not sure if it's confident or not for some things. Like there's unanticipated consequences. And so like there's different ways of trying to retrain the model or you know, get it to be more accurate. But like, yeah, it's just kind of like a major technological challenge because it's always trying to predict. There's no truth. There's no ground truth um, in the sense that we think of it as humans in our physical world. Um, and then there's also the human aspect of it, which is that will society eventually understand that these things can make mistakes and not to trust them, or do we have to solve this problem perfectly eventually because it's just too easy to like take what it says at face value? But yeah, there's some queries where you can put in and it looks totally legit, but if you show it to an expert, they'll say 70% of that is a bad idea or is wrong or is not the best practice. But it's presented very well.
In an Austin restaurant, I was asking what should I eat at a restaurant, and get me 6 items. 2 were never on the menu. Completely made them up.
You're not helping at all with this.
Yeah. Well, I had
I also wanted to add to Rob in terms of language models. My name is Ray Fernando, and I'm doing a bunch of development in the AI space. I used to work at Apple for 12 years, and I've basically transitioned independently as engineer here, just playing around with these different language models. And yeah, I just want to add that GPT-4 seems to have less hallucinations than GPT-3. And some of the differences from what I've seen that they've done there was that they've actually had humans review the data and the outputs. And so they've hired a lot of people to actually, like who have very specific expertise in certain areas to work with their models to train them to make a better version. And the current rumor is that they're working with even more experts to make their latest models even more specific for various use cases. They're not telling us which ones they're working with, but from their job postings, they're actually kind of saying, "Hey, are you an expert in law? Are you an expert in like science and various things?" And I actually still, from my observations, I just came back from the single store AI event, and there were a bunch of engineers who are working on a lot of these platform specific things. And what that means is they're working on all the tooling to make, to get and extract data from these language models to have it be more reliable and actually scalable at a production level. And what I've been finding there is some really interesting innovations and breakthroughs from various companies. And Rob, to add to your point, I've been able to have a lot of reliability by just simply using Markdown. And so Markdown is a markup language, and you can actually get very repeatable results from a language model if you just specify your instructions in Markdown and then pass in like whatever request you want to do in afterwards. And it seems to be very repeatable in that sense. So I just want to kind of add my point in that we're still very early, and engineers are still figuring out how best to interact with these models to extract it out. And to me, I'm just continuing to be curious as an engineer and looking at all the different tooling because it's just kind of, I feel like every day there's a new breakthrough. It's just kind of mind blowing here.
No, it is. Were you talking about? Oh, I apologize. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to add quickly, I think one of the biggest quantum leaps we're going to have is in the GAN, or the generative, what does it stand for again? It's the, God, I always forget this. It's the
adversarial network.
Adversarial network, thank you. So it really think of it as the challenger. So you have your generative output, and then you have something behind the scenes challenging that response in sub-second speeds. And that, I think, is going to be what really helps us get to better truth and less hallucinations.
Yeah, I actually just heard today about this new research paper that came out called Memory GPT. It's from, I think, about 5 to 6 researchers at Berkeley. And what is really interesting is they basically have orchestrated an operating system for how to better interact with these language models. And having a huge background in operating systems really piqued my interest. A lot of stuff that I worked on involved like operating systems and update systems and working with really low level hardware and software integrations. And so what they've done is really kind of an interesting approach is to what appears to be adding like infinite amounts of memory and to be able to access a lot of part of your life and have these unique ways of storing it so that when you're asking a question, it becomes actually more contextual to your requests. And they've basically done this little hack where they make these little agents go around and do these different tasks and pull things from different parts of your memory. So the problem is like today, as a real world example, once you have like about 100 messages in your text history, if you try to feed all those into a language model to do some type of work and infer some things from the past, you reach the thing called a token limit. And basically, that's just kind of the limit of how much memory can be contained in the language model before it can give you something really interesting out. And so, with this technique, they've been able to kind of hack around that a little bit and kind of do this different type of processing as part of their operating system. So I just started poking around with that stuff today, and I think that's a really, really interesting breakthrough for people who are trying to do things that are going to be leveraging, more contextual based things and more personalized types of assistant tasks.
How does it compare to that personal AI, like how that would work with the memory stacks? Are you familiar with that, Ray?
Personal AI, which one?
It's one of those where it was it basically you feed it your memories and talk to it and you build your memory bank basically so that kind of like that. I sat down with the founder and talked to him about that, and I'm probably not explaining it very well, and I apologize. But
oh no, yeah, that sounds interesting. I'd love to look into it. I know there's a different techniques that are used for storing things into memory. Some use databases. Another one that's pretty popular is called a vector database. And the vector database is more kind of looking for similarities in things. And the way that you can kind of think about this back in the day, if you're old enough to experience searching in a library, you had to type in exact keywords into a catalog to find the book. And then if you just said it's the cookbook with the red, the chef that's wearing the red scarf, it would just not find the book that you're looking for. But if you typed in that today into Google, it would instantly tell you, here's the one, and it's probably the one with the highest ranked Amazon reviews. And that's kind of the difference between the old school search and the new vector database searches with, understanding meaning. And they call that like semantic search in some ways. So I wonder if they're employing the vector database approach in that sense to try to get a sense of meanings and where they can just store this information and find a lot of similarities in your various, lengthy speeches and stuff. And I'd love to check that out. If you post a link, I'd love to go take a look at it.
Okay, yeah, I have to pull it up here. And that's true because it was out for a while. And Matt, I think do you remember you were talking about it where it was like a thing where you could DM people from any platform, personal AI. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure the site's just personal.ai. But yeah, I mean, I think you did a pretty decent job of explaining it. It's just it's a tool where you can load in podcasts, you can load in YouTube videos, you can load in links to blog posts. You can actually journal directly inside of it, and it sort of stores all the information so that when you chat with it, it uses all of that information that you gave it as the context for the chat. But then it also allows you to share that chat bot publicly so that if somebody wanted to go have a chat with MattBot, they could. So, I mean, that's really the concept of it.
Yeah, that's that's how you could interact with other people because it would be, and you set up an avatar where for your chat bot that is trained on your memory stack, I think they call it, which sounds very sci-fi, but I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, let me blow your minds a little bit with this now. Let's take this a step further and bring it back to the conversation. Okay, so we've heard about two more technologies on today's call that are making things happen faster. The hardware that can process AI for AI in many multiples faster than the current hardware. And now, like we heard about another innovation in a paper where potentially the memory can scale to maybe an infinite amount or far beyond what we think of as our normal context window. We also have multimodal, right? So the AI is being able to see, hear, and then process text. Well, what happens when we start to bring all these things together? So right now we think of a large language model as a bunch of text, sitting in a pile, or maybe we think of an image-based model as a bunch of images that have been processed. When you talk about what a real personal AI could be, it's an AI that could maybe have seen what you've seen, could have heard what you've heard, could know what you know from text, and all of these technologies that enable the AIs to handle more information could now be able to potentially handle all of those modes of information. And so I think it's another case of just scratching the surface of what is possible. And then when you add another sense, like when you just adding vision and text together, it's more than doubling what's possible. It's like 100 times more what's possible now because there's so many different ways that these things interact. So I'm constantly dreaming of all these different things that might happen. Like if any of you guys want to start a company, I've got a multi-billion-dollar company for you, which is it's like a street sweeper vehicle that drives around the road and uses AI to look at the cracks in potholes. And when it sees a pothole, it uses like a 3D printer to like fill the pothole or the crack or whatever with whatever it's supposed to have. And you sell this to every city and they just drive around fixing the roads all day using AI. And you could Waymo it in terms of like have it autonomously drive itself around. Like it doesn't even need a driver, just fixing the road. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? So someone please build that.
You can also add drones to it, because drones are going to be another step that a lot of these other companies are working on. So you can have these mini drones that fly around and kind of observe the streets at a certain cadence. And then basically you have a central AI agent that is going to be determining like a good path for this, patching system to go through and deploy and understand workloads and stuff. And that's another whole topic of drones and actually regulation in the USA that's sort of happening behind the scenes. There's a big push to actually have drones that are made in the US for privacy concerns and reasons. Some of the most popular drones are currently made by DJI in China. And so there's been some concerns there in terms of possibly banning them, and Amazon's and the likes of other companies are actually working on their own US made ones, and are kind of working a lot behind the scenes with lobbyists to kind of make theirs the more favorable ones.
Yeah, I mean the drone spotters is awesome, but like just to finish the thought, in the past, again, you might have an image recognition model that would like find the pothole, and then you would have some computer written code that would say, like this is how you measure the pothole, and this is how you operate the 3D printer, and this is how you do all this stuff, and all of that would have to be a fixed algorithm that would know how to do that. But now that we have the potential to both see and drive things with large language models, some of that decision making, some of that figuring out what to do in this scenario could be happening via an AI brain and not just an algorithm. And so when faced with an uncertain situation, a crack that it's never seen before, or other things, there could be some large language model processing in there that's trying to figure out what to do. And so you get this level of smart machines and smart processes that don't have to be pre-engineered to solve all of the problems in their problem set, but they just need to be set up in a way where they can adapt to these new scenarios. And so like that's one of the things that multimodal is so powerful, or why it's so powerful to me, and why what we've all been, hopefully, or many of us have been playing with over the last week or two. It's just that scratching the surface is like we can process the image and do some kind of reasoning or decisioning or deconstruction of the problem, or whatever it is, with the other part of the multimodal model. Say that 3 times fast. And the potential for that to me is uncanny.
Do you think that we'll have, like in medical fields and things like that, by like maybe the next year or so, where they're diagnosing, or they're able to scan something, image something during a surgery. Aren't they? I think you're doing something similar to that now in another
Yeah,
country, or
it's
be able
already.
to check it out, or check out the X-ray really fast instead of waiting for the radiologist to come and review it and then call you back in and all that. Where we could maybe streamline even dental work, all kinds of things.
A lot of it's already happening, but you also have to understand that the way the medical industry works is one of the limiting factors here. And so, for example, if you have something that is like, I know a guy who's working on a technology that looks at genetic factors and helps with diagnosis and understanding of the disease specific to the person and their genes. Really complicated AI stuff. Like, it's not even large language models. It's other kinds of models that I don't even know how to explain.
It's
But
like a K-means algorithm. Go ahead.
Yeah. But he was talking to me about how it's not, he has to try and make sure it's not wrong or that it's not guessing. And like what to do about when you're talking about something in medicine, like there are all these other requirements there where like it's much stricter how they need to approach the design, how they need to approach the outputs of it, how they present those to the practitioners. So there are these other requirements. And so I think the technology for many of these things that you were talking about, it exists and it has existed for months or maybe even years, but there's another part of the process, like that, for better or for worse, society wants us to be safe. And so I think that's what'll be the limiting thing, not
And
the technology.
Privacy also too, and
Another one, yeah.
worrying about data breaches for the especially with genetics, but period, with any kind of the patient qualifiers or patient identifiable information and things like that. And if you have anything related to mental illness or HIV and a couple of things in the U.S., then those are protected even more. Anything you can't, so that probably would put a lock on a lot of that.
I think we'll be able to overcome that fairly quick. This is one area of research I'm intensely focused on now, ironically for marketing, but it has implications in fintech and HIPAA-related compliance like this. And the way I think we're going to go about solving it, and I'm confident we're going to do it this year, actually, either by end of this year or by Q1 next year, what we're doing is, and it will be opt-in driven. Naturally, it has to be. So you have to opt in, but then all of your PII, your name, your email, your address, everything associated with what would otherwise be sensitive data, like your health records or your genetic for genome decoding, and opting into this collective pool for medical research. What we're going to do is we're going to hash everything with SHA 512. We're going to give probably either one of two scenarios. Either one will be company managed keys. So like if you're a patient of I don't know, one of those large major providers, Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic, whoever, they'll be the holder of the keys and the keychain. Or scenario B is you as the individual are the holder of said key and keychain, and it can basically effectively be tossed in the ocean. So you as the patient know that it's impossible for anyone to ever get your PII. You know it's encrypted using the best encryption possible. And then what we're doing is we're blockchaining that ID and then making it decentralized, so it's portable with all the other details needed to facilitate the research. And like I've been working on this for a very long time, roughly 10 years for advertising, knowing that the implications are going to be massive.
Well, so I contract for the federal government now with public health and stuff. But what are they doing for the lobbyists? Because how will they be able? Because those are federal laws in the U.S. How will they?
Oh yeah, believe me, my work has been subject to scrutiny by the SEC, the everybody. I mean, you name any three-letter government agency, and yeah, they're definitely putting it under a microscope, and it hasn't been pretty or fun. And in fact, I'll be honest, they've really done a lot of harm. They've really set research back a lot because they don't understand it. But the good thing is it's getting easier to understand, and the explanation's been simplified.
yeah, nobody understands HIPAA and things like that, and everybody gets it confused. And overall, if you say AI or anything like that, a lot
Well,
of
and if you say crypto,
legislators.
which is what this is using, then all of a sudden the perception is thrown off base and this is, I'm not going to get on a rant about it, but this is why I really hate cryptocurrencies, is they took something I started working on in 2006 and kind of bastardized it. So like that's what ledger hashing and hash matching was intended for, what I'm describing. And what we started doing, we were working with Oracle and SQL Server at the time. This was back in 06. And what we were using it for then was to have decentralized data sets that were blockchained and hashed for the purpose of different teams and enterprises. Like, you have your accounting team, you have your sales team, you have your marketing team, but there was a need to have anonymity to these data sets. And we were using, back then it was 256, SHA-256 hashed, but we needed a way to keep them together. And that's where it came from. And now it's just turned into something totally different.
Jane, I see, dear IT and cybersecurity, welcome. You could probably help answer some of those questions. Go ahead, if you have the mic. Jane, can you hear me? Jane Scott, you have your hand up. Well, I do want to ask Andrew, until Jane is able to get on the mic, so what you were describing,
okay,
is
I'm
it kind
back.
of like, is it kind of like the real fast at the airport, the what's it called, where they take your
Clear.
Yeah, it's like similar to that.
Yeah, it's based on the same premise. I'm sure they're doing something very similar.
But
same thing.
With the blockchain, and it seemed like it'd be more secure. But okay.
Yeah, and the idea is like the tech I'm working on, and again, it's in partnership with Google. It's to bridge the gap between systems. So, for instance, we have web applications with Google Analytics. We have mobile applications with Firebase, Log Analytics. We have the company's first-party data, and so we want to be able to marry it all and know that there's anonymity to the consumer. And I think this is going to open up a lot of really interesting capabilities in the near future, where, like, let's say you're, I don't know, whatever your favorite retail brand clothing company is, and we take personalized advertising to a whole new level. And then when you go in to try on your clothes, like, it knows suggestions and has already retrieved them using robotics for you. Like, I believe very strongly that's the future of commerce.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for letting me pop in. I won't take long. I'm really excited about all of this technology and being a part of this discussion with such intelligent people who are at the top of the line here. I wish I was there with you. Anyway, I concern, first of all, I want to say Rio, or the guy with the yellow, the last speaker down there. I really like his business idea about the thing that goes around, fills potholes. That's pretty cool. But then the other guy started talking about drones flying around in the streets and stuff like that, and America has landed free, so we got to be really careful where we go with this stuff, because the government, all we have to do is have Al Qaeda or somebody come in here and have a terrorist attack, and the next thing you know, they're going to want to use all that good technology to surveillance everything, so you're not even going to be able to walk down the street.
This is a non-political space.
Oh, okay.
So I gotta
especially this week.
I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to get political, but
what do you do with your role? You work in IT and cybersecurity.
Right now my role is a student. I hate to say, I'm really working hard to get into a boot camp so I can get some certifications and get a job. So
there's a lot out there.
I'm starting a second career. Was an RN for 30 years, and now I want to get into cybersecurity.
Well, that's like me. I'm a pharmacist for 20 years, and I learned how to code about a year and a half ago through a boot camp, 6 months.
Excellent.
And, Georgia Tech, and did that, and that's how I ended up here in this space right now. So,
congratulations.
No problem. Thank
well,
you.
you're
And
proof
you can
that it
do
can
it.
be done. Yes, because
Oh yeah,
I'm very
absolutely. I
patient.
figured,
I'm very
why not?
passionate about keeping America safe, you know, because
Oh
it's going to
no,
be a
me
cool
too. And
thing. But I won't be
uh,
political. I'm just saying, you know, just
but it is a good
I'm just
idea.
saying,
What Rob
keep it in your minds, because you guys are all really intelligent and just kind of, you know, and I'm sure you guys already thought about that. You're not, you know,
what a great thing here at this space, and like I've been on X period, is that we're not really in a
yeah,
just one place. And that I love that part of being able to speak and realize I'm talking to people that are in this room right now from all over the
yeah,
world. And
yeah,
it's amazing that we can sit here and do this, and do it pleasantly. And there's a lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
spaces right now on X that you can't, it's just difficult, even no matter what country or whatever. But so far, I've been blessed for the past about 9 months or so, where we've had great spaces. Oh my God, we haven't had any issues really like that,
Yes,
because
it's
we're just sticking with and just throwing ideas out, and everybody's welcome
yeah,
to
yeah,
like bring up ideas.
yeah.
But no,
And
I
if I
think it's
stepped
great, and
out
I
of
think
line, you know, I don't mind you
no,
correcting
no, no.
me. It's all good because I know that this is all intended for good and everything, and
Oh yeah.
I hope we have a utopian society. That's my prayer, and but it's going to
Well,
take
we
a
won't
lot
get
of
there,
people to
but
keep
as
an eye
long as
on
we're
things,
all
and we're going to need the cybersecurity people to watch stuff. And I know AI is coming into that field, and we're going to be working with AI, which is going to be great. It's going to make our job a whole lot easier. And
absolutely.
you know, I think this
Well,
is
all of
quite a
us, it should be
privilege.
integrated with life,
Yeah, yeah,
period. And I think that as long as I want people to feel, my mission is like to make people feel more comfortable talking about and realizing what you have around us, in that, different subjects that we're dealing with, and just using common sense as we go through. I do
yep,
appreciate it
yeah.
though that you explained your story, and I love talking about the different people changing our roles and just having a new
Yeah,
perspective. So
yeah, yeah, because it's
thank
going
you
to be
so
good.
much.
It's all good. And I also want to say
I
hello to
do.
Robert Scobles. He's my man. He's cool. And
Yeah,
anyway, you all go on
he's
and
our OG.
let us know
Thank you
the
so
good
much. Yeah, I was
information.
gonna wind it
Yeah,
down. And,
get us informed. I like
like,
Something I'd add really briefly about cybersecurity innovations. If you haven't checked it out yet, please watch the Google keynote next from this year. And they demonstrate how they put Vertex right on top of log level data so that you can identify threats. It's got advanced threat detection. So if there's a 0-day exploit identified, and then when you're rectifying it as an engineer, you're solving for it, you'll have AutoML to assist you at scale, which is really important when you're dealing with, dozens or hundreds of computing nodes. You really have to be able to operate at a high scale. So it's pretty exciting. Again, if anyone hasn't checked out Next, even just the keynote from this year, you'll get a really good demonstration of what it looks like and how it's going to completely revolutionize how we work in cybersecurity too.
If you
great.
want to go ahead and add,
If you
like,
have a link to that, I know you said Google, but if you want to put something in the pill for us, uh,
Yeah, if that's okay with the
yeah.
hosts, I'll put it up there.
oh yeah, absolutely. Please, yeah, knock yourself out. And what I was gonna say is I'm gonna go ahead, and I guess it's 7:15, and I'm gonna wrap it up. And I appreciate it, and thank you, Matt, for hanging out a little bit longer, because I know you had a function to go to soon, and for Rob coming late, and everybody, our guests that came up, and I try to check and see, what you guys' background is before I bring you up, to see if it relates to the conversation, just to be honest, and just so we can keep it flowing. And I do appreciate all the information that you were able to fill in for this. Thank you all so much, because we're already at the end of October, right? Yeah, this is the third week of October, and things are moving so quickly. And I wanted to ask, anything going on, Matt, between Matt, Rob, Salma, and Taylor, before we wind up? Go ahead and pitch yourself.
I'm just doing my normal thing. I've got a YouTube channel over at Matt Wolfe. So if you just search me out, you'll find my YouTube channel there. But I also wanted to add that I loved this conversation today. I've really been following a lot of the open source stuff closely and playing around with a lot of it. And I just want to say that I think Rob was a fantastic addition to this space. I'm so happy to have him on. I think he added a lot to the conversation. Same with you, Ray and Andrew. So this was a really, really fascinating conversation. So really happy with the way the space went, and hopefully more of you guys are on in the future, because I loved where this one went today.
Yeah, we did have a good one. Thank you.
Huge.
Go ahead.
Andrew and Ray, you guys were awesome, bringing some of that
Thank
expertise to the conversation. Thank you. I'll give myself a quick 10-second plug. I took $1,350 of my AI courses on content creation, prompt engineering, leadership, and implementation, and put them into Lenin Labs, a $29 a month membership site. So you can get a ton of value, all my flagship courses, a Discord community, some really cool chat bots, and access to twice monthly office hours with me for just $29. If you want to check it out, leninlabs.com. It's really, really crazy cheap, because I'm trying to build sort of the next lynda.com, or what that might be for AI, a new way of learning and implementing this technology. Thanks for letting me share.
Oh, and I'm a member of Lenin Labs, because I think for the and what was the one that for the certification, I still have to work on that, but I think I have a membership for a while for Lenin Labs. But I've bought all of Rob's courses since last December, and the communities, and that's how I base a lot of my understanding on how to speak to the AI, and how to learn how to, even you've updated things since you started, where, the mega prompts you took down after, monitoring and analyzing the effect to fine tune it, so that we could learn better ways to speak to the AI, and for different reasons, and just even your mindset. So I just want to say it is worth money. And I think that Rob is one of the best people on here that I've followed, that I understand you can speak it in a way that you explain it in ways that regular people understand, how to go out and use that for not even on MidJourney. That's what I always tell people. That's still natural language, right? Just learning how to speak to AI art generators, if you're copywriters, whatever, it's all going to be similar, the way you're speaking to them. So thank you for what you've done to make sure you got all that knowledge to us, and that you have those resources available. I was on there today, and the courses, you just have tons of information, handouts and swipe files, and it's just really, thank you. It's well worth it. I was
Thanks so much, Heather.
No, see, you can give me my affiliate money. No, I'm just joking. but seriously, like I said,
gonna have to sponsor
sometimes,
this.
Sometimes it's like, I'm just gonna say if it's worth it, and it's like sometimes you got to spend the money towards something. It was worth it for me, because it saved me a lot of headache from not having to just keep throwing things in and taking everybody's prompts that they gave, which is great, but at least I kind of had a foundation to start with, and then I could kind of look at those, and if I wanted to incorporate one of them, or that kind of thought process, I could, but I had a strong foundation. So thank you very much. And that was a lot. I'm sorry. Salma and Taylor, you can go ahead. Taylor, go ahead. You go next.
No, as always, this was such a good space. I've learned so much, even if it just meant me sitting back and furiously taking notes. I have been writing up recaps of the last few spaces, so I think I'll continue doing that and write up a recap of what we talked about today. So if you guys care to see what that's about, you can subscribe. My link is somewhere in my bio. There's a link there. Also wanted to just plug the Matt Wolfe interview that we talked about earlier. That was the first in a series with kind of some creative legends. And I'm excited to publish a few more of those over the coming weeks with some people that may or may not be in this room right now. So very excited about that. If you want to check it out, I think it's like the first or second thing that's pinned up at the top. You can hit the link to that. So yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you so much for taking those notes. I really appreciate it, everybody. That just so you know, like I work up until 5 o'clock, and I hurry up and change my status in Teams and get on here. So I thank you so much for doing that, because it does take me forever. It's been getting harder and harder to be able to even reply to comments and stuff. So thank you. I'm not ignoring you. I really appreciate it. And Taylor,
Yeah,
that
no,
takes
I
a
mean
headache
the
off
goal
of
with
me.
those is really just like these conversations. You guys are so amazing. We've been doing them every week almost for about a year, and there's so much good information that it's exchanged here within the community about this AI community, really at the grassroots level. And so we've kind of had like random efforts to try to archive some of it, and Dave does an amazing job of writing live tweeting live threading the entire space every week. But I just wanted a way to kind of like archive some of these things so that they have a longer shelf life rather than disappearing in a space one day. So that's
you're
all that
using
is.
Zealous for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like Zealous,
Yes.
and
Using Zealous for that, getting the transcript, running it through,
and
all the
Zealous,
things.
the AI tools where it'll even give you the topics, and it'll give you auto what is it, the what do you call it, chapters and things like that.
Zealous is amazing. I use it for some of the things that I was using Descript for now, just because it's so easy to like manipulate the transcript and everything. It's just great little all-in-one tool. Not sponsored, but it is a plug for
It's
Zealous.
it's kind of like assembly AI, or like the way it breaks it down. And Decipher wasn't too bad too, but it couldn't handle the file size. That was my problem with this. The space runs so long, I couldn't afford to, or even upload the audio file without trying to cut it. But Zealous does take it, and it's not that expensive. It's like $25 a month, and I can upload, I think it's like 20 hours of audio. But just to let people know, if you have any type of audio, and I think it'll do video also, but you can do the rap, and you have like the short audiograms that go out, and that have like the space. I could put you guys on there, and then it'll have the auto captions, and you can go in and edit it. Just to plug, because it's a great repurposing tool, and I don't think many people know that much about it. But that's Zealous. And Salma, I'll let you go here. Thank you for hanging with us over there in London. But what's going on with you?
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for this incredible space. I've learned quite a lot today. But yeah, I've been working on my tool, as you know. So in the next few weeks, I should have some more information regarding that. But for those of you guys that don't know what I'm doing, me and my team have created a tool which enables product photographers create images using AI generated background images, and then add the actual product onto the studio and then render. But yeah, some more information to come in the next coming weeks. And thank you, Heather. I know it's getting quite late here, but love the spaces and what you've been doing for the past couple of months. I think now, did you say 9 months?
It's been a while. It's been a while, but it's been worth it, and I'm so glad. As everything has happened, and all these different tools and the different technology, and we were sitting around here when GPT-3 was there, 3.5, and we just didn't have all these things that were available. Just to look around and see how many things I can use to make a video. I had no idea that there were that many different apps, and that there were things that could talk. We had a few, talk to your PDFs, or talk to your, large documents and study guides and things like that. Now we have just tons of them. It's so hard to keep up with. Matt, like for the future tools, I kind of gave up. Like I don't even know how many things are in each category anymore. So I'm so glad that I was on there today looking for something else. And it's just like, there's just so much. We used to try to let's do a thread about all these different tools, but I see Paul here too. Thank you for some of your threads that you put out, a lot of your content. Thank you. Because there's just so many different things, we all can't cover it, and we may not even be aware of what's out there. So I'm just blessed to be here, and I love learning a lot of things. And it's just like every day, every week, there's something else. I wanted to say that I had a great podcast interview. I don't know if anybody put it at the top. I gotta see. I don't want to hang up on the call, but Jeff Wilser, he did a wonderful job, and it was great because he kind of helped me think about how, like, what's my purpose and what's my mission. And I'll be sitting down with Taylor soon, I promise, next week. So thank you. But just being able to be on a podcast is just crazy to me. I never would have thought, why would somebody want me on one? So I appreciate anybody who's interested. And if you want to listen, it's interesting, and we nerd out a little bit, talking about spreadsheets and did my process and things like that. So that was really good. And I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with us this late. There's still like 160 people in the room. I hope that you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. And Rob will be coming back. I'm going to just force him to, but he said he loves coming, and I appreciate it. And he is a great addition to the panel because, it just gives another perspective. And he has information, like knowledge, that things that he's been he's been working on for the past several years. But we're all growing together. Thank you so much for everybody that's here, all my people that I'm talking to every day, that we're exchanging prompts and tips and tools. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
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 Take
Thank you.
care.